my streets. Fuck, it's good to be alive. Hi, I'm Bobby. My name's Bobby Hudon. I'm also known as Pharaoh Moans, and I come from Beausejour, Manitoba originally. My drag name came from... It's a mix of things. So Pharaoh, of course, is an Egyptian king. So Pharaoh was powerful for me, and it's essentially saying she's a king. So there's a play on the gender right there. Moans, of course, is very sexual because I really like to push those boundaries as well. Drag is my political statement. It is using fashion and makeup and wigs to create a 360-degree piece of art that makes impact without having to speak a word. Drag is about normalizing spaces. It's about creating safe spaces, and it's about expressing yourself to an extreme so that others feel comfortable expressing themselves no matter how subtly they wish to do so. What do you mean it was declined? I am highly inspired by the club kid movement of the mid-80s to early 90s. So Jane St. James, Amanda Lepore, Michael Alec, like these people really inspired me a lot. I was also really inspired by Divine and John Waters from the 70s. I feel like they made drag punk. The films that they did together was so much fun, and I would do a reboot of Pink Flamingos any day, any day. My family is quite large. I have 5 siblings, and my mother raised us all after my father had left. So even right from the start, it was a very tumultuous sort of dynamic within my household. Just, you know, dark childhood trauma stuff. And then my parents divorced, and I'm kind of considered the black sheep. Like, would you believe that? I'm the black sheep of my family. Growing up in rural Manitoba can be very difficult as a queer child, or at least it was in my experience. Coming out in Beausejour sucked. It was really hard. My family didn't understand it. I remember at one point, my little brother was shocked and crying, and I couldn't understand. I was like, why? Like, that doesn't matter. And then, of course, my mom, when I came out, she said she was okay, but she was suffering underneath, and it just made for a mess. I wound up leaving when I was 16, and I moved to Winnipeg because I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to live there. Well, this is the dumpster. This is where I throw out all of my baggage. Like, all of those sticky secret things I don't want people to see goes right here, Henny. Right here. So the first time I was in Winnipeg at a Pride, I think I was 18 then, and I saw drag queens. And they terrified me. Not because of who they are, but because of the optical illusion of the eye makeup. Like, I couldn't figure out who was who, or I just didn't get it. So it terrified me. They still pulled me up onto a float, and then I like partied with the drag queens all day, but it was still very like, I don't get this. And then maybe a month after, I was like, I want to do this. I really think I can do this. And then I started seeing shows, and I started seeing what was happening here in the landscape of Winnipeg at that time. And a lot of it was just like wearing lingerie with a corset on it, do the splits a couple times, and it's considered a fierce number. And I thought to myself, I can do this in a different way. There's a space here for me that I can venture on. I'm very influenced by taking any random item around you and making it part of drag. I think that that's so important. A lot of people think that you have to spend a lot of money to create impactful ensembles, but it's not true at all. So I really like taking different objects and items and just stitching them together to make a strange outfit, whether or not it's styrofoam cups or solo cups or vinyl records. Like, I've done all of that. In my world, like, you don't really become drag royalty until you can understand that drag is a tool that can be used for other people. I really feel like the sex trade should be normalized everywhere. I think it should be legalized. I think that there's such stigma against sex workers, and the work is seen as not being legitimate work. And I'm very much about not being an abolitionist with it. I'm very pro-sex trade. I think that the sex trade's great. I think that the sex trade has been in existence since the dawn of time. I think sex has been one of the first commodities here on Earth. And we're here not only for those reasons, but also to honor the International Day to End Violence Against Sex Workers, which is on December 17th.